Saints Row the Third Remastered may have only come to Steam and GOG a couple weeks ago, but thanks to the power of the modding community, there's already quite a handful of exceptional mods. Some have been restored from the original, and others are brand new modifications that give additional life to the game. Today, I thought it'd be fun to check out some of these mods and see what madness we can cause throughout the streets of Steelport. Keep in mind the mods aren't in any particular order, but I will be saving some of the special ones for the end. With that said, let's start with Singa's latest mod, Notoriety Adjustments and Variety. What this does exactly is fixes minor bugs and adds an assortment of new adjustments to each level of notoriety. For example, military vehicles now spawn with their proper variant with correct decals and will spawn on lower levels. Police vehicles will spawn with more troops in correlation to the current notoriety level. So level 2 notoriety spawns a peacemaker with 2 cops, level 3 peacemakers will hold 3 cops, and so on. The National Guard will use assault rifles more often instead of constantly spawning with only a pistol. Plus, police NPCs now spawn with more facial variations. Instead of always seeing the same 3 faces, lesser used models have been added to the mix to add some much needed diversity to the fuzz. But not only that, female troops have been added as well. It was always disappointing not seeing women work in the law in the city, so this mod rectifies that by taking the cop stripper model and putting her alongside the police and National Guard. Singa has yet to find a way to spawn them in free roam, as you can see here, but they'll always appear in the passenger seat of peacemakers, the turret of a bulldog, and even helicopters, boats, and tanks. However, this mod doesn't only affect police, gang notoriety has also seen some adjustments. The Morningstar Tornado now has a higher chance of spawning when before you would rarely see it. At level 5 gang notoriety, the Morningstar variant of the Vulture will spawn when before it was only used in a single mission. And to top things off, Singa's even thrown in a few tweaks for homies. Zemos will now use a bling variant of the Gravedigger, and Kinsey has a chance to use a special melee weapon. Overall, this mod adds some much needed fixes to the game's notoriety and is only a few small hurdles away from being perfect. Moving on to a few vehicle mods, Konata has added 20 additional rim styles to rim jobs and overhauled the color palette with brighter shades. These are essential for any car enthusiast and makes customizing your dream car a breeze. The extra rims were actually in the original game, but due to copyright, they are left unobtainable until the option was restored with this mod. But if all that wasn't enough, Admixon's Burning Kneecaps mod truly adds some flames to your ride. What it does exactly is replaces the game's regular kneecaps with the fire VFX from Trailblazing. It's also great when using the mod at nighttime to help light up the darker areas of the map. One final mod from Singa gives vehicles a crushing ability from tanks. Sure, there's a cheat game that already does this, but with the mod, you can switch and choose which specific vehicles have the ability. This will also affect NPC-driven vehicles, which adds a random element of chaos throughout the open world. Just keep in mind that you can get crushed yourself. Ow! Onto a couple homie mods, classic Johnny Gat has been restored, but what's even more shocking than that is that the cut homie Cypher makes a return as well. This is pretty mind-blowing considering the homie was cut from the original game after the arcade title Money Shot was cancelled, but not only that, her unused model survived being ported to the remaster and was even updated. You have the option to either have her arrive on a motorcycle or an Ultor Interceptor, though this way is a bit buggy. Singa has also altered her code so that she'll always spawn with the Togo 13 Sniper, which makes her a quite powerful ally. And even without homie upgrades, she can take quite a beating before she goes down. Going back to Johnny Gat, he'll arrive in the Gatmobile when called upon. If it isn't cool enough already to terrorize the streets with our old friend, he also uses his iconic knife attacks only seen in the first mission. He may have a lack of dialogue, but it just feels great kicking some Syndicate ass with our favorite lieutenant. For you Borderlands fans out there, Konata's Bordersaints reshade is an absolute must. By using reshade, Bordersaints adds cell shading to the game, adding an identical look to Gearbox's first-person looter shooter. It's honestly very fitting with the game's over-the-top story, and especially works with the Gangsters in Space mission. Characters and geometry will have black outlines as if they were animated in a cartoon, and even improves the graphics in certain locations. Oh, hey Brick. Oh! You may have to play around with the options a bit depending on the time of day or mission you're on, but given the new look and the ease of enabling or disabling the mod, it's absolutely worth giving it a look. Next is an absolutely absurd mod by Admixon called All Story NPCs Are. Confused by the title? Well, we're just getting started. This mod replaces every single story NPC with your choice of either Viola, Shandi, the Decker Specialist, or Johnny Gat. It can be pretty hilarious, especially during certain cutscenes. And if you thought one Shandi was bitchy enough, get ready for a real bitch fest. As of the making of this video, there's only been 4 weapon-focused mods made for the remaster, but what I consider to be the most convenient of them is Singa's permanently temporary weapons. This mod allows you to store specialist weapons on your player like the Decker Shock Hammer, Luchador Grenade Launcher, and the Brute's Minigun and Flamethrower. Instead of dropping them when opening your weapon wheel, they'll now take up a weapon slot and can be switched back to freely at any time. The mod overall makes for a refreshing spin on combat and makes firefights even more chaotic. And last but absolutely not least, we have F13's Super Ethical Patch. This project is a compilation of mods from dozens of modders that morph the remaster into an incredible experience. If I were to try mentioning every detail of this mod, we'd be here for an hour, so I'll just cut it down to the highlights. Starting with Slick's new melee moves, this feature heavily reworks the game's hand-to-hand combat system. Melee animations for the basic triggers that were cut from the original game have been restored. The movements of the player are more fluent with gut punches and solid face jabs, making for an extra level of satisfaction. Cut nut shots have been restored as well, so each weapon class has its own unique animation. Holding the shotgun causes the player to give an enemy an elbow drop to their goods. While holding an assault rifle, the new animation has you push the enemy over and proceed to stomp over their body. The animation can be a bit buggy if the enemy's near a wall, so I can somewhat understand why it was cut. As for the others, they're simply perfect. Next in the collection is Firespite's Extra Clothing Colors mod. This simply adds an abundance of brighter color options for clothes at any store in the game. Similar to Konata's additional color shades for vehicles, except these brighter colors are added to the list instead of replacing the original. So if you've ever run into the problem where you couldn't find the right color you wanted, this mod has you covered. A very cool vehicle mod from Admixon implements the rolling mechanic from Saints Row 4. So if you make enough air off a ramp, you can do barrel rolls and land like an absolute boss. Onto one of my personal favorite additions of this patch is improved Pedestrians. Saints Row III always had lackluster NPCs, especially when compared to Saints Row 2. However, they'll now perform more unique and rare action nodes and have a much higher chance of being hostile to one another. Like the previous games, I'll wander into a hectic situation between NPCs that I had nothing to do with. It gives much needed life to the city and makes any playthrough that much more enjoyable. Homie NPCs have also been improved. Angel will spawn with his luchador mask and Saints will arrive in Saints-themed vehicles. As for weapons, lethal explosions will now cause NPCs to explode into chunks, and much more firearms can be used while driving like the sawed-off shotgun, bling shotgun, and the taser. Before we get into the 2 ultimate highlights of this patch, some minor fixes include removing the sky barrier, swimming faster, and Ole can take a lot more shots before he goes AH! And at last, the Super Ethical patch includes Idle Ninja's infamous additional cheats and his iconic Sandbox Plus mod. The additional cheats offers over 70 new codes that range from rare vehicles, open world effects, and player alterations. Just to name off some of my favorite vehicle cheats, there's the pony cart, the ball used in Belgian Problem, 2 jumbo jets, and 3 variants of the stork that include a bank vault and a shipping container. What's amazing about the stork is that homies and the co-op player can actually get on the helicopter's payload. The container is especially great because homies will either freak out in the back or one can be held onto by the co-op player. It even plays the host crying sound effect from the mission, which is simply hysterical. The jumbo jets are also quite amazing. They're basically the size of skyscrapers and have the handling of a VTOL. I recommend using basic flight control so you could do instant barrel rolls in this behemoth. They will make for some of the most unforgettable moments you'll have in the entire series, especially if you're playing in co-op.
Oh my god.
How you doing? Did I hit you? I was trying to hit you. I didn't know if it worked or not.
Some world cheats include many alterations to pedestrians, like turning them all into pimps and hoes, having all-out ped warfare, and even having them rain from the sky. Player cheats include the return of some of my favorites from Saints Row 2, like being large or small, having low gravity, and evil cars, which makes all vehicles ram into you. It's quite convenient for insurance fraud, especially combined with the low gravity cheat. And finally, one of my favorite cheats is the ability to change the time of day. Without a running day and night cycle, it's frustrating to always load a save just for it to always be nighttime. Thanks to this cheat though, that's no longer a problem. Now on to Sandbox Plus, and honestly, I don't know where to start with this one. The mod adds unique commands to your keyboard so that you can activate a vast array of special options. There are so many unique commands in fact that rivals everything I previously mentioned on this list. But to try to name off just a few options, you could start any cutscene, warp to any mission location, cycle through any weapon or outfit, become drunk or high, become a glitched out abomination of the avatar from Decker.die, and so much more. If your mouth isn't salivating already, you can even activate superpowers. These include the Saints Flow abilities from the Trouble with Clones DLC and even the Decker Specialist and Brute animations. You can also activate deadly effects to your character like the Mollusk Launcher Explosive, Electric Explosive, or constantly be engulfed in fire. You can even mix and match these options for some pretty intense combinations. Another pretty cool feature is being able to change story-sensitive locations throughout the open world. Say you want the Morningstar Tower restored, return safe word to a BDSM club, or hell, bring the Daedalus back to terrorize the city. Now you can. All of this is just a handful of what Sandbox Plus has to offer. I can't do it justice in one video, so I absolutely recommend checking it out for yourself to discover all the fun you can have with this mod. And there you have just some of the mods that can be enjoyed in the remaster. If you would like to download any of the mods you've seen, please check the description below or go to the official Saints Row Mods website where you can find countless more mods for the entire Saints Row series. And before ending today's video, I'd like to give a special shout out to my Patreon sponsors: John, Scissorp, Delta, Sis121525, Big G, Red Skull 100, and Dr. Purple Bunny 78. Like always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.
You're gonna do this for my highlight reel, motherfucker.